Today we're talking about a game that some people love, some people hate, I thought was great. Mouse PI for Hire. Now, if you've looked at IGN, they said they didn't like it because it was too cheesy and a little bit repetitive. If you've looked at any of the trailers for this game is exactly what it showed itself to be at the beginning. It is a game that, yes, has some detectiveness in it, but in all reality is just blasting and gathering stuff. It's almost like a looter shooter, but that's not the right name for it. It's something in that area. I forget what it's called. This game is exactly what it showed you it was going to be in the trailers. It didn't show you breaking every cases. It talked about in the background detecting cases and figuring it out. But most of the gameplay was just blasting with, I think they call it the Richie gun. Which in this game, my two favorite guns were the acid gun and the Richie gun. The other weapons in this, to be honest with you, sucked, in my opinion. The fire gun was alright, but very situational. The shotgun wasn't great, and I guess it helped with the shield guys sometimes. And overall, I didn't like any of the other guns but the acid gun and the Richie gun anyway, so it doesn't really matter, to be quite honest with you. That's my opinions. I'm sure other people think completely different situations. But, and overall, it's a noir game-based shooter. Now, this game is more than just that. It has a totally different game within this game. But what made a lot of people want to play this game is because it's based off the old Disney art of Steamboat Willie, is completely hand-drawn, and is actually done really well. The artwork of it is tremendous. Though it never really skyrocketed into numbers, which even currently, I'm still confused by. It maxed out on peak day at 13,000 players. And currently, at least on Steam, I have no idea what the other areas are. Currently, it has about 1,800, almost 2,000 players currently playing it. Now, I don't know if those are new players, old players, whatever the situation is, close to it. Dropped in April. I bought it on day one, actually pre-ordered it, which I don't really do with games anymore. And from the start, it was exactly the type of game I knew I would love to play. For others, they have called it from anything from not a true noir game to a game that was too quote-unquote PC. Now, from someone who's willing to call a game out for being too political, I will definitely say this game doesn't follow the verdict of being PC. What they did was took a certain point of time, which was around the time Steamboat Willie was made, and used that to create an entirety of a video game out of. You have cheese legging, which is a little bit off of bootlegging. You have the shrews, who are, well, I guess you could think and take a guess. You have the Big Mouse Party, which is obviously the other type of party from the old world is what they call it specifically. They didn't really give it a name. They just call it the old world a lot. And then, obviously, you have all the beautiful weapons you get with this. But it's all based around one main character, and I guess numerous of his lackeys you'd call, Jack Pepper, PI for Hire. He's a dude who makes cheesy jokes, loves cheese, but doesn't understand how there's so many fondue leggers around. There's also a lot of references to blue cheese and how it stinks, which makes me wonder, blue cheese is one of two things. Because in the circus level of this game, you see that an elephant is eating the blue cheese through his nose. Which makes me wonder what that blue cheese really is. Is it just cool, a moonshine? Or are we talking about something that kind of looks like baking soda or flour? See, I'm not 100% sure, but it is what it is, right? So, in this game, Jack Pepper is a PI for hire. He was once in something called the Big War, or the Old War, something like that. Him and his buddy Steve, the magician, and Cornelius, who was running for mayor, all were called the Invincible Three during this war. Jack came back, was a police officer, and had a very bad gambling addiction. And because of this, he was no longer on the force. I don't know if he was fired. I don't think they really went into specifics on that. He was no longer on the force and ended up becoming a private investigator instead, who would take up a lot of cheap, easy cases that would give him decent money so he could afford his gambling problem and he could afford his fondue problem. And that was pretty much it. Until something came across his table that was much more intense than that. Much more suspicious that he just couldn't put his finger on. Even he says in a quote in this game, he knew he should just walk away, but something was keeping him from doing so. Like any good noir game, at the beginning, you start at the end. The final mission and the beginning mission are two and the same. When you get to that final mission, you also recognize it because it's the same mission you first started with. The only difference is what happens after you drop. Now, I'm not gonna spoil that 100%, and I will eventually. Here's your warning. But you immediately go back to the PI office, you talk to some people, and John, who is an owner, or the owner, of Little Big Pub. He's a shrew that runs the pub, owns it, and lives life out in Mouseburg to the fullest. One of, I'd say, Jack Pepper's best friends. It's also where you meet Wanda, who is the reporter, and honestly, in my opinion, secret lover of Jack. They just don't know it yet. Now, she doesn't get paid a lot. She does have big cases, but you also find out that her boss is quite tight with someone in this game. Maybe you'll recognize the name, maybe you won't. Milford Sawyer of the Big Mouse Party. Now, Milford is obviously based off the German party from the late 1930s, early 1940s, who paid his way into becoming powerful and taking over a good portion of Mouseburg. Their opponents include people like Cornelius and another mayor that I don't remember the name of, but got killed by someone. Well, we all know who it is now. The leader of the Big Mouse Party, so it would be easier for the BMP to take over and have control of the entirety of Mouseburg, and then next, the entirety of Mouse America. Is that what it's actually called? I have no idea. But I named it that, and that's what it's going to continue to be. Jack Pepper is exactly who you kind of think he is. He's a guy who at times will make cheesy jokes, but when you throw an analogy at him or use any form of wordplay, he doesn't understand it. Instead, he takes it literal. My favorite quote from this game is, "Jack, will you stop pulling my leg?" And he says, "Your leg's on the ground. How am I supposed to pull it?" Now that gave me quite a tough, a little bit of a laugh. But that's who Jack is, and it's almost predictable. But if there's one thing Jack really is good at, is cracking cases, which obviously throughout the game, you have this big corkboard and you crack the case. It's obvious, but the real point of the game is to figure out who did it, which you figure out at the beginning, why they did it, why it's happening, and what's going on. Now, as you go throughout the game, the true base of it isn't necessarily the story, but how much blasting you're doing. I mean, you get special moves slashes double jump, you get a little tail flight and hover, you can actually swing with your tail, you get wall running. Throughout the entirety of this game, you're really just blasting in a noir type of vibe and feeling that also feels like you're in the early 1900s cartoon of Steamboat Willie, which honestly feels amazing. The art is tremendous, it's all hand-drawn, this guy did amazing with the graphics all around. There's nothing you could really see in this game that goes astray and looks horrible whatsoever. My favorite part about this game, though, isn't just that it's a game itself, but they have a game within the game where you play with baseball cards, which, in my opinion, is probably what got Jack in trouble with the Force to begin with for gambling. Now, if you don't know this, you play pitcher for a while, and then you play catcher, or you play catcher for a while, then you play pitcher. Whatever number's higher is the one who wins in either of those situations. So, if you hit the ball, your character's a level 9, has 2 run power, he runs 2 bases. Has 3, he runs 3. Has 4, runs for a home run. So, obviously, that's probably what Jack Pepper was getting in trouble with, which is why they had you play it in the game to unlock one of the weapons. Which, by the way, I sat down and at least invested about 2 to 3 hours in just playing that game alone, outside of the main game. And there's one thing that IGN said specifically. Apparently, the dude who played this game is a big Noir fan. He said that it's really just bad cheese puns and bad jokes, and that it isn't truly a Noir, which maybe he's right. But the only other Noir I can base it off of is, let me guess, LA Noir? Because there really isn't anything popular out there of Noir games or genre. And to be kind of honest with you, I still don't see any new Noir games coming out. Rockstar kind of took a shot with LA Noir, but there's been nothing since then. I really don't think this is a popular genre for one reason or another. I think it's very interesting, and honestly, we should see more of it, especially with the Blastin perspective. I've loved Blasting, so that's why this game was great for me, and I don't agree with IGN at all. At the same time, this is the same company that said that Pokemon had too much water in it for the old gen Pokemons, and that's why they gave it like a 3 out of 10. So, you really can't trust them. I had someone in my comment section for a short I made a while ago say, well, not everyone wants to play a shooter game like this. And my response to that is, hey, dummy. And all of the tutorials, or not tutorials, and all of the intros or anything you've seen for the game for commercial reasons, you hear Jack Pepper in the background, and 90% of the time, you're just blasting. If you're surprised by this game being 90% blasting, then you're just an idiot who doesn't know how to read the room. That's the simple truth of it. It really is just factual information. Now, another thing I heard was that this game is too PC. I don't see it. I still don't see it. I still don't understand it. It's based very loosely on historical events that happened at one point in time in reality against a specific group of people. Now, if you compare the name Shrews to another group of people, then you kind of know where they're coming from with this. The one thing I will say that bothered me about the game is that they put Mouseburg, that what is based off New York City, damn near next to New Orleans. Now you might ask, how do you even know that? What are you basing that off of? Well, the old shrew lady in the sewers had a New Orleans accent and spoke partial French while doing voodoo. That's how I know that. It was pretty, or mouse stew, I don't know what they called it. But it was pretty prominent that that's what it was based off of. Now that makes me worry, because that makes me think that whoever the creators of the game, which is a Swedish group, really truly think that New York City and New Orleans are right next to each other. But that's a whole other story and a whole other time to go off that. But the Shrews were dope as well. They were very obviously the victims of this entire game. They were being trafficked, they were being forced to do stuff, and they were also having their ink be used to create. Remember when we talked about the Invincible 3 with Steve? Steve the Magician, a portal into an alternate dimension that he controlled in some weird way to make it so he could have his own pocket dimension to do whatever he pleases with, and also hide out in forever long possible. Now, a lot of this comes down to because people thought Steve killed his assistant, Betty. Betty ended up being killed by someone else, and Steve tried to rebuild Betty using the Z-Scientist to rebuild her because he was heartbroken when he lost her. But overall, it is what it is with that. That's just a small part of this. And not just that, but ugly people were also treated like absolute shit in this game. If you remember Igor, you'll notice that he is trapped in a cage, in a literal cage, hiding on top of the ceiling. But he didn't seem to mind it, to be completely honest. He seemed to call you master a lot, which was very weird to me, and kind of reminded you of some weird Frankenstein creature that you actually offer to have plastic surgery done on him so he could fix his situation and didn't end up taking it. It also features Vivian, who is one of, if not possibly the best friend of Betty, but she also kills someone herself. Someone who's very well known. She kills one of the other candidates that were in competition against Cornelius and the Big Mouse Party because she suspects that's who killed Betty. Now, do we truly figure out if that's what happens or not? I don't think so. I mean, yes, you do, but no, you don't. Because at one point in time, you kind of fight her, but you really fight a dude who kind of is acting like you, but is an actor version of you, not a real-life version of you. You kill him, and then you go after Vivian, and she just disappears and never be seen again, and then, you kind of get to the last mission. But she's a baddie of a mouse, possibly the hottest mouse you'll ever see in your life. And she does exactly what you expect her to. Once you kind of catch her in a lie, which I was suspicious of her immediately. Catch her in a lie, she runs and hides like any mouse would. Any rat would. And of course you have Tammy. Now Tammy is a peculiar situation because she is a mouse that originally hated, and I mean hated, Jack for putting away her stepfather at the age of 13. Now, you don't fully go into why he put Tammy's stepfather away, but Jack did come back and raise Tammy for at least part of her life, even though Tammy hated her. But really, in all reality, the only reason she's around is truly so you can have a face to your gun upgrade kit. That's pretty much it. Other than that, it does not matter. She's truly not a 100% important character until like the final mission. But even then, truly just kind of there for show. I guess you could technically say the same for Wanda, but at least she kind of points you in the correct way. The only truly useless character, I'd say, was Cornelius because, well, he's running for political office and doesn't truly seem to actually care what anyone really wants. Now, is he probably the lesser of three evils in that situation that eventually becomes two evils? Absolutely. Because one of the parties wants to kill all the shrews, sees them as undesirables, and wants to put them to work, doing whatever the hell he wants them to do, while keeping the big mice in their prominent position like he thinks they should be. Now, this game has a story, right there. You hear it. To me, that doesn't sound PC. To me, it sounds like you're trying to stop World War II before it starts. You're trying to stop a situation that's happening because it's on your desk and you're getting paid handsomely for it. You're trying to continue to live your life as a private investigator and do your job. And even like Jack Pepper said, this case came across his desk and there was one point in time that he said he should just walk away. Every bone in his body was saying so, but he knew he could. The story in this game is solid. It's not the best story. It's not GTA 5 level story. Not even Kingdom Hearts level story. But for a small indie game company, it is a good story. And usually with games like this, you get one of two things. You either get amazing gameplay, which this game definitely has. I mean, you have numerous features like wall running, double jump, swinging with your tail, and I guess levitating with your tail to go across large areas. But you also have decent story in this game. But usually it's one or the other. You have either decent story or you have good gameplay. Now, if you look at a side-scroller, a lot of people will say this is an amazing story. But I can't play side-scrollers because I don't like them. Now, that's why I personally wouldn't go and play a side-scroller and then rate it, because I know I'm going to rate it bad, even if that story is amazing. or you have horrible story but great gameplay. I've played plenty of those, to be honest with you, and I've had fun with them. They're absolutely horrid, but still, I've had plenty of fun with them. It is what it is, okay? This is somewhere in the middle, where the gameplay is super fun and definitely better than the story, but the story isn't bad. And because of that, I would give this game, all around, a solid 8. Now, most of the guns aren't amazing. The only 2 guns I truly liked was the acid gun and the Richie gun, fully upgraded. Why? Well, you can't go wrong with the Tommy gun. And the acid gun, honestly, in true honesty, just needed to be nerfed. It was so much more powerful than the other weapons. It was literally not worth grabbing any of the other ones. They simply could not compare to the potency of any of these other guns. And when you had ammo for it, and you shot one of those acid balls, it would just melt through everything. It didn't matter if it was the flying enemy that would come after you and talk a whole bunch of crap and was annoying. It didn't matter if it was the dudes with the shields who would run at you with a damn baton trying to hit you with it. It didn't matter if it was the fat guys who would run at you at full speed trying to pin you against the wall. Or it didn't matter if it was your basic NPC or sniper. This gun would melt it, making all of the rest of them but the automatic gun pretty much useless. Now, I know some people might disagree with me on it, but the one gun I hated the most was absolutely the cannonball. But just like any other game, there's always going to be a gun you use the least, like the least, so on and so forth. In this game specific, I only felt like there was 2 good guns, and the rest of the guns needed to be buffed. Now, was this game necessarily hard? No. No, it wasn't hard. You're not going through an extremely hard situation game. Was it fun, though? That's what's important. Did it feel like this game was preaching at me while shooting people, or did it feel like I was truly discovering a case while shooting people and having fun? I'd say it's the latter. You're having fun, shooting people, and you don't feel like you're being preached at. I think a lot of people come down and say this is a PC game because of the time period they chose. I mean, you're looking at Prohibition, which for them was Cheese-ibition, where fondue, blue cheese, so on and so forth, are all technically in some weird gray area, if not illegal or just becoming unlegalized, because there's a bar across the street that's serving cheese. So, but the one thing that I always was a little confused about is they talked about blue cheese a lot in this game, which I only seen one character actually using the blue cheese, and it was an elephant, and I don't think elephants eat with their nose. And because of that, I have a feeling that that was closer to what you would look at flour-like. Substance like that might have been why it's called blue cheese. Might be the reason why people acted like they acted with it. It might be why the elephant needed to use it before walking on a tightrope for absolute focus. Makes sense to me, might not make sense to others, but I could be wrong, and it might just be another comparable to like moonshine or something like that. But like I said, I don't think elephants eat through their nose. I'd say if you haven't given this game a try, I would. It's skyrocketed all the way up to 13,000 players on its first day, which really isn't many, but if you do the math right and say, well, even not fully right, but do the math half-assed and you think everyone got the premium version of the game, they made money off of this. The studio did good, and I doubt they invested anywhere near as much as, well, Bungie's Marathon was invested into. If I calculated it right, and let's say Gabe Newell takes 20% of that game's earnings, they made about a little over $400,000. To me, that's a good sign that the game's good. I think this will be a game that will be played later in the future. It's not a now game, it's a game that will slowly trickle to have players as people get bored of their current game. It's the reality of it. They're going to get bored of their game, they're going to give it a try, and they're going to see, wow, this is actually a fantastic game. Why did I listen to any idiot that decided to say it was bad? If you out there, viewer, decide, hey, maybe it is time to go ahead and try this game. I would. I'd play it through. It's fairly inexpensive. Most games these days that are made by AAA titles, about 60 to 80 bucks, depending on who the creator is. I think this was 30 bucks for the premium, maybe $39.99 for the premium. And it was well worth the money and well worth the wait. The creators of this game did a fantastic job. I think that they should make another game like this. I think that they did a really good job with what they had, especially with the fact that most people seem to like it. Most people haven't even given it a try yet. And overall, the game is a solid game. We don't get many Noir games. We don't get many games based on this artwork. We don't get many games based on this artwork that comes out looking as good and or as fleshed out as this game. Now, don't get me wrong, there are plenty of glitches in this game that I could talk about that got annoying. Like, I got stuck constantly and would have to figure out a way out. Which, if that happens to you, go ahead and keep changing your gun, and eventually you will get out of it. The only thing I wish happened in this game was that you got in a literal car gunfight, where you're running away, and someone's following you, and you're blasting him from behind. That's pretty much it. Other than that, it's damn near a perfect game from a small studio who tried their damnedest to make a good game. Can't say you see that much in today's world, but I could say I definitely appreciate it. 8 out of 10 is the score. Love it or hate it. If you disagree with me, I'm going to say you're wrong, but you're entitled to your dumb opinion. Y'all have a great day, night, or evening. Peace out.